One of Chicago Fire's most tragic moments was the time when actor Yuri Sardarov's character, Otis, passed away. It's a moment that is seared into the minds of millions of Chicago Fire fans. In addition to being one of the show's most tragic deaths, it was also one of the most shocking. So stay tuned and don't go away, because rumor has it Chicago Fire could be bringing back Otis in season 11. First up, how does Chicago Fire pay tribute to Otis's legacy? You're about to find out. For the most part, Chicago Fire has done a good job of carrying on Otis's legacy. Otis's friends, such as Joe Minoso's Joe Cruz, have paid tribute to him, but there are some fans who still have a hard time accepting the fact that Otis is gone. At this point, you're probably asking yourself, how can they bring Otis back if he's dead? Will they use a psychic like Whoopi Goldberg's Oda Mae Brown in 1990's Ghost as a conduit or something? Well, not exactly. You see, Chicago Fire has a precedent for reviving dead characters on the show. Not literally, of course, but via flashbacks and storytelling tricks that enable deceased firefighters to reappear and remind fans why they loved them so much in the first place. One of the best examples of Chicago Fire reviving dead characters can be found in the example of Corey Sorensen's character, Andy Darden. Andy died in the series premiere, but appeared in the season 3 episode titled Always. The episode gave viewers a flashback that showed how the 51 operated in the early days. And given how beloved Otis is, a flashback would be a great way of bringing him back in the mix, so fans could see him at least one more time. But before you get your hopes up, you should know that there are a few things that keep this from happening. For one thing, Chicago Fire doesn't really do flashbacks anymore. They were rare in earlier seasons, and they've been pretty well non-existent in recent years. Why? Because the need to flesh out the world before the events of season 1 has decreased. And there's also another issue that could make an Otis flashback nearly impossible. Since leaving the series, actor Yuri Sardarov has been a busy guy working on TV projects such as The Rookie, 2012's Argo, and 2022's Adam. Next up, what's the secret to preventing the Chicago Fire set from feeling too heavy? Let's find out. Some of you have probably noticed that while you're at work, one of the best ways to pass the time or lighten the mood can be to use a little laughter. Of course, laughter brings joy, and joy often makes our work days feel as though they are passing by faster rather than slower. According to Chicago Fire star Iman Walker, this applies to the set of Chicago Fire as well. The cast members of Chicago Fire have to deal with some heavy subject matter. They're forced to run into burning buildings and buildings on the verge of collapsing or exploding. Actors also have to deal with badly burned people and others suffering serious, life-threatening injuries. As a result, the mood on set can often be very serious, sad, and even frightening at times. Iman Walker says, when it comes to facing the challenges of heavy content, laughter is the best medicine. And I have to agree, because the actors on Chicago Fire are constantly facing traumatic events on the show, the intensity of acting out the scenes can feel very real, even though the crises are fictional. Iman Walker says that between shooting the more intense sequences, the cast often relaxes by sharing a good laugh. Walker said, when we cut, we laugh a lot. We laugh more than most. Up next, which Chicago Fire episode broke our hearts? Let's have a look. In season 1, episode 19, titled A Coffin That Small, viewers were reaching for a box of tissues within the first 5 minutes. A boy fell into a laundry chute while playing with his brother, got stuck inside, and sadly, the boy did not survive his injuries. What made this episode even more heartbreaking is that the boy's mother went to the firehouse and brought a photo she said her son would have wanted them to have. The photo is of her son dressed up as a firefighter, and according to her, that's what he wanted to be when he grew up. At the end of the episode, the members of Firehouse 51 lined the sidewalk to honor the little boy, and viewers at home were left wiping away tears. The 22nd episode of season 1, titled Leaders Lead, was also a tearjerker. Before the days of Monica Raymond's Gabby and Jesse Spencer's Casey, we had Terry Reeves's Hallie and Casey. Even though Hallie was only with the show for 1 season, her death was still very difficult to watch. Many viewers didn't realize how much they had connected with Hallie until she was gone. Viewers were forced to watch the agonizing moment as Casey begs Hallie to breathe to him, breaking down in the doctor's arms. For many viewers, it was nearly impossible to get through the episode without crying. When Charlie Barnett's Mills approaches them, Casey clings to him as the rest of the team stood by, fighting back tears. Stay tuned and don't go away as we reveal the most heartbreaking Chicago Fire moments of all time. You might want to have some tissues on standby for these ones. Next up, what was one of the most tragic episodes of season 7? You're about to find out. out. Season 7's 6th episode, titled All the Proof, will always go down as containing one of the saddest moments the series has ever seen. Despite the fact that Treat Williams' character, Benny Severide, wasn't a series regular, his character became a notable standout. When everyone learned that Benny had suffered a stroke, it came as a complete shock, not only for Taylor Kinney's character, Kelly, but the fans as well. Sadly, Benny died before Kelly could make it to Med to see him, so he never got to say goodbye. During a chat with Eamon Walker's character, Bowden, Kelly confesses that the last words he'd said to him were that Bowden was a better father than he was. Bowden tells him that Benny had helped get the commissioner to back off the firehouse, and the revelation left Kelly shattered. Seeing a guilt and grief-stricken Kelly break down was truly heartbreaking. Another tragic Chicago Fire moment came in Season 4, Episode 4, titled Your Day is Coming. Season 4's 4th episode came with some very heavy emotional scenes. Viewers saw Gabby almost die, as well as the loss of her and Casey's unborn child. Heavy stuff indeed. Gabby was rushed in for surgery to save her life, and Nick Gelfus's Will Halstead of Chicago Med was there to care for her. The episode captured the indescribable pain of losing a child, and Gabby was in denial after learning about the baby. The episode was hard to watch, particularly for viewers who have felt the unbearable sting of losing a child. Up next, were Gabby and Casey in store for more pain and anguish? Sadly, yes. In Season 5's 10th episode, titled The People We Meet, Casey and Gabby are hit with another devastating blow when they were forced to say their goodbyes to Louie, the little boy they had fostered at the end of Season 4. Seeing the couple having to deal with the loss of another child was extremely upsetting, considering everything they had already gone through. Gabby hadn't even finished the grieving process for her unborn child when she was struck with yet another tragedy. In Season 3's Episode 1, titled Always, the crew of Firehouse 51 struggles to deal with one of its biggest losses ever. The explosive cliffhanger of the Season 2 finale saw Chief Bowden outside of a blown-out building, unable to reach anybody on the radio. The whereabouts and conditions of everyone inside the building were unknown. We eventually learn that Shay took the brunt of the explosion. Severide performed CPR on Casey, Mooch, Herman, and Cruz, forcing him and Gabby out of the way to get her out. For viewers, the opening 5 minutes of this episode was enough to cause the tears to start flowing. Between Gabby's guilt and the flashbacks, this episode will go down as one of the saddest episodes of Chicago Fire ever. Rest in peace, Leslie Shay. Next up, what was one of the cruelest Chicago Fire cliffhangers ever? You're about to find out. Season 5's 22nd episode, titled My Miracle, gave fans one of the cruelest cliffhangers ever, and it's hard to say which part of this episode hurt the most. The thought of losing Casey, Herman, and Mooch was all once just too much for the viewers to bear. The episode ended with most of the team trapped inside a burning warehouse with no exit. Mooch had a heart attack, and Casey broke everyone's hearts by saying goodbye to Gabby over the radio. This was hard to watch, and the tears were flowing. To make matters worse, viewers had to wait 4 agonizing months to find out who had lived and who had died. 2 episodes earlier, in Season 5's 20th episode, titled Carry Me, centered on Kelly, who had a few relationships over the seasons, ranging from Sophia Bush's Erin Lindsay to Sarah Shahi's Renee Royce. But there was nothing like the bond between him and Charlotte Sullivan's Anna Turner. Anna may have only been in 10 episodes throughout Season 5. However, she had a heartbreaking impact on Severide and Chicago Fire fans. It was clear from the start that there was something special between Kelly and Anna. What started as a donor-recipient relationship turned into a beautiful bond that was tragically cut far too short. There were so many touching moments between these two in their short time together. But in this episode, seeing Kelly break down in her father's arms after she sadly passed away from cancer was soul-crushing. Finally, what's the key to life? A Beating Heart. Season 4's 10th episode, titled The Beating Heart, centered around Christopher Herman, the beating heart of the Chicago Fire family. Throughout the last 10 years, Herman's been a counselor, father figure, and a shoulder to cry on for everyone in the One Chicago universe. Not surprisingly, when Freddie stabbed him in Season 4, the thought of losing him was terrifying. Herman suffered a hypovolemic shock and was rushed into surgery to control the bleeding. In addition to Herman's critical condition, the tearful moment he shared with Cruz was the icing on the cake. That's a wrap for today's video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe to our channel.